Honestly, I just want to play Moonlighter because the sequel is going to come out eventually. I don't know if it's pretty soon, but eventually. So I did keep reading Campfire Cooking, and chapter 4 is super nothing. Chapter 4 is like 20 pages. The title is This and That About Magic and Worldly Affairs. So the only two things that happen in this chapter are Mokudu tries to get back at Fel for teasing him while traumatizing him with the goblins. That kind of backfires, and then it kind of revolves around Fel's skills. When he tries to get back at him, Mokuda ends up feeding Fel like a handful of cakes, thinking that Fel's a dog and he's not going to like sweets. But of course he ends up liking it anyway. He tries to explain to him that eating 15 cakes is probably not good for you and you'll get sick. But then that's when Fel drops the bombshell of, oh, I'm not capable of getting sick because I have a goddess's blessing. And then when he finds himself back in town, he ends up going to the bookstore in order for him to keep looking for a map, but he keeps getting shot down everywhere he goes. Luckily, he does find a magic book that lets him know it's like, oh, well, here, this is how you kind of do some basic magic. He learns that ice and lightning and holy magic are really rare, but of course, when he had the opportunity to scan Fel, he has all of those. He has ice magic, lightning magic, all of that stuff. The day ends up going on, he finds himself at a bar. He tries to ask some rough-looking adventurers. He ends up having a conversation with some guys at the bar, and he quickly finds out these guys are also war orphans. Everybody just does not like this current kingdom, and everybody's trying to go out east, which I guess works out for Fel and Mokuda. He ends up finding out that most beastmen and demi-humans are not treated very well, so everybody ends up traveling east to the kingdom over there where everybody's treated a lot better. That ends up being their next destination because they want to go to the ocean anyway, but not before they manage to finesse 8 silver coins out of Mokuda, which is 8 times the normal price. And by the time they leave, everybody at the bar is laughing at poor Mokuda. That's literally where chapter 4 ends. That's all that happens in chapter 4. So chapter 5 is a lot more substantial. It's titled Sue, the baby slime joins the party. As they're heading east towards the ocean, they're just speeding through the forest. Fel ends up remembering that there's a lake there, and of course he has to show off his amazing fishing skills. And of course, by fishing skills, I mean he just torches the lake with lightning magic. A bunch of fish bubble up to the surface. I always love how not impressed Mokuda is with Fel's shenanigans. So, in a clear display of foreshadowing from last chapter, Fel shows off his lightning magic and his immunity to toxins because he immediately asks Mokuda to cook the blue and pink fish, which is clearly poisonous. And of course he turns him down. There's no way he's going to risk cross-contamination with something so visibly poisonous, and Mokuda doesn't have any notable resistances. During the meal, Sue shows up. Of course, right now he's just a baby slime, but after eating a handful of the garbage and getting some head pats from Mokuda, Sue kind of enters into a contract with him without Mokuda realizing it. Only a few days end up passing, but apparently Sue gets a handful of levels through just eating inorganic stuff, just the trash from whenever they have regular meals. Though that does culminate into one night where we finally get Ninrir introduced. So I think he ends up buying chocolate for everybody. No, first it's the red bean buns. So one night they have like pastries. They have red bean bun pastries. And in the morning, Fel gets a divine message from Ninrir, and she immediately asks Fel, hey, the humans should make a contract with me. That way, I can give him my blessing. And so Mokuda thinks this is a great idea. He gives her a few sweets in the form of an offering, and he gets a small blessing. It kind of works out. It is kind of silly watching him use a empty Amazon box as an altar of prayer. So then the contract is formed, and then later is when he buys the chocolate, and then she contacts him directly. She specifically asks to make an offering of chocolate on the spot. And then that's kind of where Mokuda's opinion of her starts falling. He kind of just assumes she's just this disappointment. And it's kind of funny watching Mokuda's reactions go from very high to very low with these two new people that get introduced in this chapter, where he just looks at Sue as this adorable baby. That's my son. I love him. And then anytime from this point on, when he talks to Ninra, she's just such a disappointment. All she cares about is sweets, and she can't think of anything else. But the small blessing does give him a boost to his magic, where he finds that really nice. Unfortunately, he tries to learn how to do earth magic, and Fel is just constantly disappointed in his progress. That's where chapter 5 ends. So I'm thinking the dungeon is chapter 6. That's probably because the only thing after chapter 5, there's a little interlude. They're called gossips. This one's called The Disappointing Goddess. It just explains how Ninrir kind of passes time in the goddess realm, and she kind of peers into other worlds, and eventually she stumbled upon Earth in current day. And of course she noticed that a bunch of people are eating like sweets, and she really wants to try them for herself, but she can't interact with her world, let alone someone else's. But I guess if anything, she's lucky, because at some point she's just checking up on everybody who she's given a blessing to, and one of them's Fel, and she noticed that he has a human master, which is really strange for Fenrir. But she does notice immediately that he's an otherworlder from Earth. So this was kind of like her chance to eat sweets from Earth. She tries to keep the blessing that she gives to Mokuda a small blessing and not a full blessing, because if she were to give a full one, it would attract the attention of the other gods. And the only reason she doesn't want the attention is because they'll also try to give Mokuda a blessing, and that'll kind of cut into her offerings. It's foreshadowing, because that's exactly what happens. So I'll probably go ahead and read chapter 6 here pretty soon, but oh man, honestly I think I'm just going to keep playing Moonlighter for a while.